Hey everyone, welcome to Coach on Command. My name is Arron Littleton. I'm the head coach of the Gymnastics Sports Center Storm, two-time AGA champion, and I am also, as it so happens, your host for this hour of excitement and wonder. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've got a great show for you tonight. I've got some of my esteemed colleagues here, as always, the same ones, a little bit more esteemed occasionally. So they're hanging out with us, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and we'll get the show on the road. Anthony dropped an olive.
My name is Coach Tracy, and I'm actually capable of growing facial hair.
All right. So if you're enjoying this psychobabble that we have every single week, then please consider, liking the video, comment, subscribe, all of that. You can check us out on Spotify. You can check us out on YouTube. We're on both of those places. And also, we will soon be on Facebook. So I'm going to make a prediction. That you can find Coach on Command on Facebook by the time this episode airs. So that's what we're going to do. Joe Cronin used to do it, so I'm carrying on his legacy. So tonight, we all know that one of the biggest motivators for good or for ill in acro sports is fear, right? We've all seen it firsthand in the gym. It can affect you in any number of ways, from being a paralyzing panic to being a motivational force to being a challenge to overcome. So tonight, while we are channeling one of my favorite shows, the thrilling Nickelodeon classic, Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Sorry.
I am old.
My bad. That's on me.
It was a fantastic show. Go check it out.
It was a good show.
I've never actually heard of it.
Tonight, fear will be our topic. So, as Kaegan said, you can look at him. He has no idea what Are You Afraid of the Dark is.
You can tell by his facial hair.
This is going to be a through the entire...
But I'm sure, just like Tracy, Are You Afraid of the Dark was a staple of my childhood, and I'm pretty sure that that's the reason I turned out this way.
Did you take dinosaurs to school? I'm trying. I'll get there. One day.
Very aspirational moment. So, let's start with beginners. All right, fear is the topic under consideration. So let's start with beginners, because coaching a beginner kid, obviously through their fear, can be completely different than it is with the more advanced athlete. So what are some of the tricks you found helpful in working with lower level kids?
I take it as slow as needed. You never want to freak out a kid to the point to where they don't want to do it anymore. Because after a certain point, they stop being able to function and actually do it. You have to find the right level of making your students better without completely freaking them out.
I'd have to agree with Kaegan on that one. I think patience is definitely a virtue whenever you're working with, especially a newer kid that doesn't quite maybe understand the art or, the small nuances within a skill. But definitely take your time. Don't push too hard. Also, pads. Put pads down all over the place. Put pads on top of pads. I don't know why younger kids like that, but the more of a cloudy and pillowy a landing spot looks, the more likely they are to try to throw anything. I know some kids that will do anything into a foam pit nearly, Also, spotting. Some people just feel more comfortable, even if they only have the false belief that you're in control. Sometimes I'll spot a kid doing a backflip, but really I'm just standing there while they do a backflip because they don't need me, once they're past that point. So I would say slow progression. Don't push too hard. Sometimes a little tough love is necessary, but usually on beginners you want to go the more patient route.
I think that really the big one for beginners in gymnastics is bars. Everybody's afraid of the bar. For the most part, they can do trampoline, they can do beam, they can do rings, all that kind of stuff for the most part without too much trepidation. But once you get to the bars, all bets are off. And so the thing about it is, number one, you got to start somewhere, and I say that a lot, but it's true. You can't just start in the middle. And so you've got to figure out where you're going to start. And generally, what I do is if I'm working with a kid who has a fear of bars, and now normally, hopefully, that kid is like 5, 6, and under. Hopefully, I don't have like a 12-year-old who's just like scared of the bar. But yeah, so you're working with them, and so the thing that I try to do is I'm like, number one, I'm like, I will tell you we're not going over the bar, and then I'll make them repeat that back to me. I'm like, what did I say? We're not going over the bar. Okay. And I steal something from Joe Cronin, something else from Joe Cronin, and that is that I tell them I don't lie to children. So I'm not just going to be like, hey, we're not going to the bar. Guess what?
Woo.
Yeet. Yeah.
See, that's where you have a mental breakdown in the middle of class.
Right. And so we try to avoid those at all costs.
Yeah.
And so we don't do that. But yeah, and so I tell them, I'm like, hey, we're not going over the bar. But you do want to try to make some sort of progress on the road that you're trying to go down. And so for me, generally what I found that works is I say and make them repeat to me, number one, that we are not going over the bar. Then after that, I will pull them into a chin-up, because it's normally like chin-up, pull over, cast back, hip circle that they're really afraid of, basically doing a circle around the bar. That's the number one. So what I do is I tell them we're not going to do it. Then I pull them up and I make them see their toes above the bar. And so it's like, so you feel kind of inclined a little bit backwards, and it's like you've got to really kind of work them into this. And I'm like, oh, see your toes. And then I'll probably ask them something disarming like, hey, how many toes do you have? How many toes are on this foot? Whatever. It's like you got to distract them a little bit from their fear, because if you let them just sit in it, they're not going to do a whole lot.
What I do is I lift them above, like you said, and I have them wiggle their toes and say, hi, toes. And then I bring them down and they go by.
Fantastic. That is a great method, Kaegan. And so that was 100% sincere. I just want y'all to know.
Yeah, that was actually
that was
decent.
good.
That was actually decent.
That was
guard for a second.
So yeah, see your toes above the bar, tell them something, make it a little funny, a little humorous, get them out of their own head about it, because that is a tough, shell to crack.
Yeah.
And then obviously after that, eventually you can get them, you go a little bit more, and eventually they'll be able to go over the bar. But I always try to make sure that they know what is happening. Like I said, at no point am I going to be like, you can do it, and you just just chuck them over the bar. That's not a great life lesson if you want them to come back to your class.
Yeah, Leroy Jenkins didn't come back.
Right. All right. So working with beginner students and how to deal with the fear with that. Okay. So number 2. All right. So you've got a highly tuned champion level athlete who has met their match with a new skill that they've just started working. What's your play? What's your play working with somebody who is more skilled, who should be a little bit more in tune with their feelings and how to get past their fear and all of that? You've got somebody who's really pretty good at the sport that they're undertaking. How are you going to help them work through their fear?
Like you were talking about earlier, working up to it. You can't just immediately like, okay, we're gonna throw this backflip. This is gonna be great. You need to teach them things first to get ready for the backflip. Make them more comfortable. Get them used to the feeling of whatever you're doing. And then you slowly do less and I'm echoing what you said last time. You slowly do less and less until they're comfortable, and you let them try it by themselves. As soon as you feel comfortable with them doing it, you can't just like let them do it.
Sometimes if they're a little bit too timid to throw a certain skill, let's say it's a backflip. All right, well, if we're not ready for this, then I guess we need to go back to conditioning. That's it's a little bit of the tough love, You gotta, of course, you want to work them up to it. Have them set on the ground, roll over backwards onto their knees, get the feeling of the rotation, and then have them set, right? But also a shadow spot. That's what I call it. I don't know what you would call it, but technically I'm spotting them and I'm right there. But all I'm doing is basically touching them while they do a backflip. Hands are there, ready to help, but I know they don't need that. All they need is for me to exist near them so they can throw a backflip. So
Your sheer presence alone is enough.
yeah, sometimes the
He's
shadow
the
spots. The magic man. So sometimes a little bit of tough love. Sometimes just a confidence boost by shadow spotting.
That's awesome. All of those are great things. And so, I mentioned the highly tuned champion athlete, and, I've got one of those, and I've got a story for y'all because
Nice.
yeah. And so I've got a few championship level athletes on my team, and one in particular comes to mind when I was actually writing this question. So I was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. And the number one thing I think is that, and we've talked about it before in previous episodes, I've said, and I said it as kind of a joke, but it's really only partially a joke. You've got to have some sort of psychiatric profile on your, psychological profile on the kids that you're working with, because you've got to know who is who. And you've got to know what they can deal with, and who you're going to put in the loony bin by trying to get them to do something that they're not ready for. And so that as a coach is super important. And so some kids need a lot of reassurance, obviously, and you've got to be there to give that to them, and that can help. And being there, just existing in their bubble, can be enough sometimes, obviously. So yeah, you got to know who is who. And so I've got this girl, okay, and she is great at beam, like unusually so, okay. And the thing about her is that there's always a long winding road of working ourselves up mentally to do what we are trying to do, even though physically we are trying to do it, because if she wasn't physically ready, I wouldn't let her attempt this, right? And so one day she's working round-offs on beam, and we're trying to move her up out of doing cartwheels at the edge of the beam. Normally, we do cartwheel back tuck for our dismount, and so I'm trying to move her up to do round-off back tuck instead of cartwheel back tuck. And this kid is a dead eye. Like I said, she is down the center every single time, making it and making it and making it. And so the physicality of the skill is not a problem, right? It is always mental with her and getting her to, kind of move in the direction that I want her to move in. And so I've worked with this kid a long time, and I really understand her mentality kind of inside and out. And so I would take some liberties with her that I would not with other people, and to try to get her to do this. And so this is the story. So she's working this round off, and she's working it for a while. And like I said, down the middle every single time. And so we get to, and so I work it up, and, we're doing it on the floor, then we're doing it on the low beam, then we're doing all of that. We work her up to being on the high beam, and the way that I do this is, so I don't, again, put them in the loony bin. I put them on the high beam when they're ready to do that, and then I stack 2 regular-sized panel mats at the side of each side of the beam. And so, it's like the beam sticks out like that much on top of the panel mat. So you're trying to hit the beam, but if you don't, there won't be a catastrophic failure. And maybe you can, kind of get through this. And so we're doing that. Well, one day she's, like I said, physically ready to do it. But one day, one of her teammates needs those mats. Or a couple of the mats, and so they're still the bottom mat, so she's not going to hit the floor. If she misses, she'll just go on the mat, and it'll be a little ways down, but not too bad. So her teammate gets the mat, and she takes them away, and she's like, and so the girl that I'm working with goes, oh, well, I'm done, right? She took my mats, and I was like, no, and so here's the important part. I go, no, you're not done. Why don't you just get up there and do a couple more? And so here's the thing. When you're going to do this type of thing, you have to pass this off as this is a completely normal request. If you can't be like, oh, let's see if she can do it. You have to be like, no, hop up there. You can do it. You're ready to do it. No problem. And so I see her up there, and then I kind of walk away. I kind of walk away to the other side of the gym and start doing something, but I've got my eye on her just to see how she's reacting, you know? And so she's up there, and she doesn't get off the beam, but it takes us a second to get the courage, and so finally she does a couple, and she starts doing it, and it's just perfect. It's as perfect a round off as I've ever taught, as I've ever seen. And so that happens, and so we move on about a week. Okay, after that, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to take that win. And I talk about stacking wins, and it's like, I'm going to take that win, I'm going to put it in my pocket for next time, okay? And then we're going to do something a little bit more outrageous. And so the next time I'm working with another gymnast, and she comes up to me and she goes, hey, I need you. And normally I'm a very nice, benevolent dictator, as Mr. Cronin said. And, I will go get the mats, and I'll set this whole drill up for her. But this time, I'm like, no, we're going to ramp this up a notch. And I was like, hey, I don't have time to set this up for you. Will you drag these mats across the gym? Because I knew that she wouldn't. I knew that she wouldn't. And so basically, I had to find something that would irk her more than actually doing the skill. And so, you know what happened? She didn't move the mats. She got up there and did perfect round-offs on the beam, no mats, perfect. And it's like some kids are easy, you work them up. Some kids, I certainly wouldn't ascribe that to everybody. But she hops up there and starts making it, and now she's making it no problem. And so sometimes you have to be a little creative.
Yeah, just get them out of their own head.
Absolutely. And, so then last question, okay. What is the scariest skill you teach? Obviously, we do a bunch of really crazy stuff in here. What and in gyms, all across the world. What is the scariest skill that you teach? And now you can talk about for you. I've already talked about that. I've talked about tumbling and how that's scary for me, and I could really freak myself out. But what is the scariest skill that you teach, either for yourself or for the gymnasts or parkour athletes that you work with?
Probably anything that involves going backwards or fast. So, back handsprings and backflips, it's very unnatural for the body to go backwards. So it sends people into fight or flight mode, and usually they choose flight. I've had very few students choose fight, but it definitely happens. And mostly bars. Specifically, squat on, jump to high bar. People are terrified of that because you have to stand on the bar, and they're just like, no. No. And I'm like, yes. Let's. And
so how are you working around it?
I'm a wizard. No. I think that's going to be my favorite callback. No. Like I said in the last question, it's just drills. You work up to it. You can't force something, or else they're never going to want to do it again. They're just going to end up defeated in their feelings and not wanting to do it. You have to make sure that you work up to it.
For parkourists, a lot of people, especially newer students, don't like to go backwards. Backflips are scary. But I would argue that that's actually not one of the scariest skills that we teach. Honestly, anything that involves a precision landing, jumping and landing directly on a rail or a beam, is terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. Yeah, I've sprained my ankles several times doing it. I understand why it's terrifying. Throwing a backflip, honestly, not that bad. Front flip, for a lot of people, a front flip is easier while also being more difficult. A front flip's a harder skill to land, but easier to get into your head that you can do it, or at least try it. Backflip, most people just won't go backwards. I saw a kid that I had literally throw a front flip while moving backwards because to her it was less scary than trying to backflip while moving backwards. And I tried to drill it into her head. It's not about the movement, it's about the rotation. Front flip, you don't necessarily have to move forward. Backflip, you don't necessarily need to move backwards to accomplish this. But once we've progressed past that, the biggest fear is still precision landing, either on a rail or on a beam or whatever the case may be. I don't know. People are awfully scared about tweaking their ankles, which I get. I use them every day.
You heard it here first. Tracy and his everyday ankles.
Yeah, you heard it here first, team. How do I work around it? Honestly, it's a lot like your round off back tuck discussion there. Put some pads up around it. Make the pads almost level with the precision item, beam, rail, whatever it is, and slowly disappear those supports.
It's because you're a wizard.
I'm a wizard. Just make it disappear.
Okay, for me, like I said, I already talked about floor, but I think all the scariest skills for that I teach for the kids anyway are almost all on beam. Actually, I mean you've got 4 inches of wood kind of levitating 4 feet above the ground. I mean that's precarious position, and so in some ways it's kind of like a precision, like you said. It's kind of the same thing, cartwheel, round off, back handspring, back tuck, all of that is terrifying when you're just like, hey, if I go this far, if I go this far past where I'm supposed to go, bad stuff is going to happen, and so beam is just terrifying for everybody except for the beginners. For the most part, the beginner beams are mostly on the floor.
Yeah.
And,
4 inches off the ground?
yeah, something
That's
like
only
that.
because the beam itself is 4 inches.
Yeah, basically. And so how I'm how I'm progressing that is, same drills. Basically what happens is I start on the line, whatever I'm trying to teach, round off, cartwheel, whatever. I start on the floor line here. There's Velcro. They give it to you when you buy some rolls of Ethafoam. Use it.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Ethafoam.
Did not know that.
Carpet bonded Ethafoam. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I've bought my fair share of that. but yeah, you start them on the line. Make sure they can get it on the line. That's probably the safest place to start. Then after that, I normally work it up to a floor beam, which is a couple inches off, but it's still pretty safe. Then after that, you work it on the low beam with the mats on either side, similar to what you said, and then take the mats away once they can do that. And even more important than being able to do it physically is being able to do it mentally and get in that headspace. And that's when we move on. When I can see you not be visibly rattled by one of these things, body language is everything, and so when I can see you not be rattled, we move on. After that, we go to the high beam. I stack the mats just like I said, and then we take the mats away, and then ta-da, there you go. There's your skill. But yeah, it's a long road, but you got to kind of do each and every step and kind of show them that, hey, this isn't the biggest deal in the world. If you can do it, it doesn't matter if you can do a round off on this 4 inches on the floor, you can technically do it on the beam 4 inches.
It's the same thing.
It's the same 4 inches. The only difference is between your ears. And that has really helped with me teaching things on beam. All right, gentlemen, you know what time it is. So, the randomly strong opinion of the day. All right, who would like to start?
Okay, I want to start first.
All right, Tracy.
We're going to talk about the biggest failure of the society that we live in as it happens today.
Okay.
So, fresh leafy spinach is delicious. It can go on many things. Shut up. It can go on many things. It can go on a pasta. You can put it on pizza. Oh, gosh. Fresh leafy spinach. Gosh, yeah. On a salad, a shrimp and spinach salad. So how is it that we can have such great spinach, mix it into such great dishes, but still we've come up with the disaster that is canned spinach?
Bye-bye.
It's awful. It is the most atrocious thing I've ever tasted in my whole life. I remember one time as a kid, my mom told me Popeye eats spinach. And I should eat spinach because then I could have forearms that look like I have cancer. As much as I did not want that type of physique, the spinach was awful. It was just terrible. I remember it to this day. It scarred me for the rest of my life, and I wish never to taste that ever again.
The thing about, my aunt went a step further, because not only did she say that I could have an arm, whatever, like a cancer patient, whatever you said.
It's like you got a tumor growing in your arm, bro.
Not only did that happen, she would put Popeye on in the can on the refrigerator to watch me eat the spinach. It's a lie. Spinach is a lie. All right,
Hey, all I'm saying is you can lift. I've seen you do it.
I lift a person or two generally each and every day.
Every few minutes. I've seen you on the springboard.
My randomly strong opinion is when people have the audacity to steal your food and then look you dead in the eyes and say, this is trash. This is not good. It is good food. You know it's good food, or else you wouldn't be eating it. And they have the audacity to tell you that you're wrong. Are you stealing my pizza, dog? Oh, bro.
This is atrocious.
Atrocious.
But not as atrocious as that pizza.
Dog. Oh my god. It's just vegetarian pizza.
Brother,
What's wrong with it? What's wrong with it?
It doesn't have meat on it.
All right. And so, lastly, I promise this is going to be my my last randomly strong opinion about food. Can only be mad about one thing per day. And this one is that so we're reaching the holiday season, right? And one of my favorite thing about the holiday season is having those tins of popcorn. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And back in my day when we were walking uphill both ways to school in the snow and all of that.
With dinosaurs.
Yes, with dinosaurs.
When I
I rode my brontosaurus.
I was gonna say I had my pet apatosaurus that was out there. Okay, and anyway, yeah. So back when that was going on, it used to be caramel, and caramel had quite a bit, and then you had the cheese.
Cheese one.
Yeah, and my personal favorite was the cheddar cheese one. But if you kind of sampled from all of them, it made like a nice symphony of flavors on your palate.
It was actually pretty excellent.
Yes.
I didn't like the cheese, but I'll agree that all of them together made it taste pretty good.
Right, and so each one brought a little different something to the table, that I enjoyed. And so now, do you know what they're doing to this? And this.
I bet you're about to tell me.
You are right. And the thing is that they replace the cheddar cheese with white cheddar. The white cheddar is gritty and it's weird. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't go the same as the cheddar cheese. And so I have gone to like 7 different Walmarts, including one in San Antonio, which for those of you not familiar with Texas geography is about 5 to 6 hours from Wichita Falls, where we are right now. And nowhere has any cheddar cheese, and I am so upset about it.
Checked online?
I have not. I might need to do that. But Walmart, listen, you got to get your act together. I've gone to so many Walmarts. I need some cheddar cheese. Bring it to me.
We're coming after you, Walmart. Where's our cheddar cheese?
For legal purposes, Walmart, we are not coming after you.
Walmart, we're gonna send a very strongly worded podcast. All right, and so that right there will do it for us. We thank you very much for hanging out. Please stay tuned for a pelican trying to eat a capybara.
Have a flipping great day.
And don't forget to set. Take care.